Hello, I want to talk to you in this video about 10 tips for working with a probate attorney to sell property. I'm attorney Vernita Williams. I'm an attorney here in South Florida. I do a lot of probate cases, and in many of those cases I have to sell property. So I work with a lot of realtors, and I just want to share 10 tips for working with a probate attorney to sell property, because this is a great opportunity for the probate attorney as well as the realtor. So let me just give you 10 tips that I know all probate attorneys will love. Number one, realtors, make sure you describe the property carefully and profitably. That might sound pretty simple, but I've had instances where realtors marketed the property and the realtor said buy cheap, and we couldn't get beyond that description because everybody that came wanted to really be real cheap and below market value. So if a property needs a little bit of work, maybe you might say it needs a little tender loving care, or you might say it's a handyman special, but be very careful how you market the property. Number two, make sure if it's a probate property and you're working with an attorney, make sure you let the buyer know this is an as-is transaction. There are not too many instances where a probate case will be willing to put money into making repairs on a property in order to be able to sell it. So realtors, make sure you say it's an as-is purchase. The third thing is, make sure when you write up the contract, you put in the contract that the contract is subject to probate court approval. Because yes, if the owner is deceased and there's a probate case, there is a brief procedure that must be undertaken to gain the probate court's approval. So that needs to be in the contract. The fourth thing is, make sure that the potential buyer sees the property before you actually enter a contract. I've had a number of situations where a potential buyer enter into contract so they can just take the property off the market. Then that buyer with the property off the market wants to take time to do inspections. They want to take time to negotiate again, and a lot of times they will come back and say, well, the roof has problems, and I saw termites, and there's something wrong with the plumbing, and there's something wrong with the electrical, so I'll buy it, but I need a $20,000 credit. Well, no. That makes it very difficult to close. So before you enter a contract with the buyer, make sure they come and look at the property first. The fifth thing is, as soon as you get the contract signed, make sure you give it to the probate attorney as soon as possible, because there are things that need to be done. The title work needs to be done. The probate attorney has to go to court, and I'm sure there are timelines that are clearly defined in that contract. So give the contract to the probate attorney as soon as possible. The sixth thing is, most of the time the probate court wants to see a comparative market analysis. This comparative market analysis, or CMA, needs to be a good one, with pictures, with an analysis, with an explanation of the analysis, and the price that's recommended by the realtors. Sometimes I'll get a CMA from a realtor that just has some pictures and the price that other comparable properties were sold for. They fall short of giving me a price recommendation and a rationale for that price. So make sure the comparative market analysis is complete. The seventh thing, and this is extremely important, is to make sure the heirs understand they may not get any money at the closing table. I've had situations where the realtor told the heirs they're going to get paid at closing. Well, if this is a probate matter, they're probably not going to get paid at closing, because the probate court has to determine how the distribution of the proceeds from the sale should be. Not every heir is on equal footing with other heirs. Some heirs are supposed to receive a little bit more than others based on their positioning in the family tree. So never promise heirs or beneficiaries, they will be receiving money at closing. It usually doesn't happen that way. The eighth thing is make sure you have a clean out crew. A lot of times when a probate attorney has to sell a property, everything is still in that house that belonged to the decedent. And to expedite the process, it's a very good thing if we already know what cleanup crew we will be using to clear the property out. So have a clean out crew. The ninth thing is be willing to do an inventory of what is in the property. Sometimes the things that are in the property are of little value. Sometimes they are of great value. But I can't tell you how many times I've had beneficiaries come after the property is sold and say, oh, by the way, what did you do with my father's Bible? That was under the bed, or that was on the coffee table. So make sure you do an inventory of what is in the house. That would be extremely helpful to a probate attorney. And the last thing, the 10th thing, is always have a locksmith that you work with. When we're doing probate cases and we have properties to sell, a lot of times you don't want to let whoever has the key keep the key, because that creates situations where people are going in the property and being a squatter, or they're going in the property taking things out. So make sure you have a locksmith that you work with so that you can change the lock on the property and help the probate attorney maintain control. So those are my 10 tips for working with the probate attorney to sell property. I do realize that a lot of times if the owner is deceased, a lot of realtors say, oh my goodness, I don't want to be bothered with that. And even sometimes the relatives of the deceased person are discouraged because trying to sell through probate seems like such a challenge. It doesn't have to be. It can be easily done. It can be done in a reasonable amount of time. So this 10 tips is something that I want to share with realtors. And if you have a property, let's get that property sold. I want to work with you, and I want you to work with me. If you need more information on probate matters or how to set your affairs in order, please visit my website. It is vcwlaw.com. That is vcwlaw.com. Or you can call me at 786-831-9483. That's 786-831-9483.